Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 7 of our 12 days of Copilot, the workshop behind the magic. So today you get to see what Santa gets to do to build things, right? So today we're going to take a guided tour of Copilot Studio and see how custom agents are built and deployed. So today it's going to be little me going through the presentation, so it's going to be a lot of fun. As always, this week's charity spotlight is Feeding America. Remember, for every person that attends this session, or any of these sessions for this week, we will be donating $5 per attendee. So if you can, please spread the word. Helps a great cause, as you can imagine. And let's keep going. We've already raised around $3,000 for them. So the more the merrier, in my opinion, for this. So it's a really great thing. Yeah, today is going to be me presenting. So you've gotten a lot of different people, obviously, as our team has gone through and built content around this. My name is Scott Verpeer. I'm the Chief AI Architect. So I get to know everything about AI enablement, and I'll tell you, there's a lot there. So today I'm looking forward to showing you some of the magic that we do on the back end to actually go through and then enable, for example, Copilot inside of a business environment. So I'm going to start really with something kind of basic here. We're going to unwrap this and then dive into, as you can see here, really the way that we build agents to address needs inside of an organization. And there's many different ways that you can do this, but I'm going to tell you from my perspective, one of the most powerful and impactful ways to do it is to start inside of Copilot Studio to build your agent. Now, what is Copilot Studio? Well, let's show it, right? Let's talk about it and show it at the same time. So Copilot Studio, you can get to it right now. Like if you're on the stream and you want to play around with it, go to copilotstudio.microsoft.com. And this is basically where we build agents inside of the Microsoft platform. Now, one of the things to note here is the fact that agents can be built obviously from this particular workspace, but what you can also do is you can build agents then that are put into solutions that allow you then to move these agents to different types of environments as you go through that processing. So just as an example here, if I go into my development environment that I've signed up for on the far right here, and I go to my Scott Verpeer environment, and then from here, for example, if I go ahead and click on my solutions here, what I can do is I can build a new solution, and I can say, for example, this is going to be my AR agent, right? And I can say that it's built by Stoneridge Software, and version-wise, we're going to do this as version Alpha 1 inside of here. And I'm going to create that particular solution, and what I can then do is I can actually come into this solution, and from the solution, create a new agent that then opens up Copilot Studio. So why do I even mention this? Because a lot of people just tell you to go to Copilot Studio right away, right? Well, this is why. So I'm going to do AR agent. I'm not going to describe anything. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the create action to build that out. Well, what's really cool about this then is that as I add different topics or different capabilities to this Copilot Studio agent, which I can also do from right here, right? But as I navigate that and do that, what we're going to see then is that the solution gets that agent and all those components that are related to it. So that way I can export this then from a development environment and bring it to a testing environment or bring it to a production environment. So this is a really important concept because a lot of people just start at Copilot Studio. And you can do that because what you can also do is inside of your solutions that you build out, you can add existing agents as well, where you can highlight, for example, that agent and then add it then into that solution. So mind you, if you decide to do it the other way, where you start at Copilot Studio and then you're like, dang it, I just watched Scott's video, I should have started inside of a solution, for example. Well, you're saved. You can actually go to the add existing up here and then add that agent, that topic, that model, or wherever it may be inside of here. So just something to note is that you can always start there. Now let's talk a little bit about the plumbing here, because this is the fun part when we're creating. And I've got a lot of experience around this because, quite candidly, if I click on my agents inside of here, every single agent that you see here, from AR agent to commodity support to proj ops to open commitments agents, I've created all these. And I've created them to tackle different scenarios. An example would be in our open commitments agent inside of here. This agent, if I actually span out, for example, the topics that are related to it, this does a lot of different types of activities inside of here where it grabs, for example, a project and then what we call open commitments or open purchase orders that are related to that project to give me a description around the content that's inside of here. So this is an example of a much more advanced agent inside of Copilot Studio. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second here. But there's also the ability to do basic agents as well. As an example, my HR policy guide agent inside of here really is an agent that answers questions regarding what I've set up here, which is our company handbook that's inside of our knowledge source. And then from there as well, there are some topics that say, for example, if I want to have, for example, some leave policy details that I wanted to go through and do some particular actions that are related to it. So the highest level, just to kind of start here, if you're not understanding or not used to Copilot Studio, is that Copilot Studio allows me to build agents that are either chat experience type agents or autonomous agents to tackle different types of scenarios inside of your business. So an example of an automated agent is our commodity support agent that we have inside of here. Let's crack this open and talk about it so that you can understand some of the capabilities without getting too deep, but know that the depth here is really where you get a lot of power with it. So as an example, in our commodity support agent, whenever you open up an agent, basically that agent runs by interacting with it through a prompt. And here is our prompt, right? So a prompt is basically what we're used to, right? We use ChatGPT all the time, maybe use Gemini, maybe use Anthropic's Claude, for example, but it allows you basically to interact with that large language model to generate content then by using that prompt. And an agent is no different inside of the Microsoft Copilot experience. Number one, an agent can be interacted with an end user typing into a prompt that might be, for example, on Teams or an M365. But also, what an agent can also do is have what's called a trigger related to it that creates what we call an autonomous agent, meaning that you're not interacting with it by typing into it. Instead, some action has occurred that tells the agent to do something, and then it does that processing. And here's the secret behind it. It's not very magical. It's basically a programmatic way, or using Power Automate, a way to pass information to the agent. And as you can see here, all it does is it takes the content that you put inside of the trigger that then passes it as a prompt to that agent. So every time you interact with an agent inside of Copilot Studio, whether or not you're typing it in a prompt or you've built a trigger for it, typically is going to be then interacting obviously with it by using that prompt. And that's the power then of Copilot Studio, because what it allows you to do then is to iterate, to be able to build then something even faster. Examples of that, when I'm building an agent, I'll set up a trigger here, for example, and in that flow, as you can see, we've had a bunch of runs that have occurred with it. And if I take a look at those runs that are related to it, I can see the output that was sent to Copilot Studio. And if I show that just as an example, I can show the raw inputs here, and I can see what was sent to it right here, and I can copy it away. And then what I can do this. I can paste it into the prompt, and it will act exactly the same way as it acts when I send a trigger to it. So if you're looking at wanting to build an autonomous agent, you can see exactly what it does for processing by then basically running it once through an automated method, grabbing that message, and then running through the process that's related to it. So Copilot Studio allows for a lot of this tracking to happen, to be able to interact with it, to really drive some of that processing. And here's the funny thing about it, because I'm getting spam mail to that inbox, what's happening is it's sending spam back, which is actually a pretty powerful feature in my opinion. Either way, it allows for you to really build out on these agents. Now, agents have some really basic concepts related to them. They've got knowledge, tools, they can call other agents, and they can have topics that allow us to basically define a step-by-step workflow that we want that agent to tackle. Now, how does the agent determine what to use? Well, it uses generative technology when I put the prompt in here that says for it to do something, to then align it to either knowledge, a tool, an agent, or an activity. So if I have, for example, knowledge related to this agent that I wanted to look up, like with our HR policy agent, if I say, what is my leave policy information? Well, because it has the company handbook as a knowledge source inside of here, it won't go to a tool or to another agent or to another topic. It'll look at that knowledge and then from there answer the question based upon what the user has asked. Now, let's say I don't have any knowledge that's related to it, but I have a tool that's connected. And a tool, if I click on the add tool as an example, allows me to connect either to an application using what we call model context protocol, such as inside of here, we've got our Business Central connector, and this then accesses the Business Central system by logging into the system and then accessing basically that form or page that we've specified. So that's one way to do it. But what you can also do is you can create different types of Power Automate flows that go and do an action and then bring that data back then to the agent. So an agent technically has access to any information that the Power Platform allows you to access. And it can bring that information back then either as a document, either as JSON or as text to then interact basically with the agent. So a tool allows for us basically then to use that. Now, what we can also do inside of here is that we can have agents call additional agents to work together to tackle a particular process. So an example might be maybe you have a manager agent, and whenever somebody says, I'd like to do some AP automation, you want it to hand it off basically to this AP automation agent. Well, you can set this up inside of here basically to go through and then drive that. So agents can communicate basically the entire chat history that you've had or the trigger history that you've interacted with to then pass that information then to another agent as well. And then finally, one of the most important and powerful features inside of Copilot is the ability to define topics. And here's why topics are really important. Now, you go and you hire somebody new, you put them for their first day on their job, and you don't tell them at all how to do a particular business process inside of your environment. Let's say it's purchase order matching. And let's say that the organization they came back from before was a two-way matching and you do three-way matching. Well, you don't want them to do what they've done in the past. You want them to do what you define as part of the business process to accomplish that goal. Well, topics allow for us to tackle this. As an example here, in our commodity contract, when we process an inbound email that comes to a particular inbox, we want it to do particular actions as we go through that process. So as an example here, we want to then decide what is this particular action that we want to do off of this email. Are we providing a price quote or are we going to generate a contract? And if we're doing a price quote, for example, if I view that topic inside of here, what I want to do is I want to use Power Automate down here to basically determine what the actual outputs are. And as we expand those, what's my basis price, my adjustment price, my cash bid price. And if I click on, for example, my flow details inside of here, what we can see is that the agent calls a Power Automate flow that goes and grabs data then inside of a particular table to get basically the commodity pricing details that are then returned to the agent so it now has pricing information related to it. So this is the magic behind this. And I think some people are sometimes they're a little bit disappointed because they're like, well, I expected the agent to do all this. Well, in all reality, if you can actually define the scaffolding related to the agent inside of a business process, just like you would do with training an end user, you're going to have much more consistent results as you go through that particular process. Now, we can go deeper, obviously, than this, and I would love to do that with you in the future. But as we only have 15 minutes today, I really just wanted to highlight some of the key areas that you interact with then with agents to really get to the goals that you want to accomplish inside of your environment. Whether it's going to be a chat experience or an automated agent, just know Copilot Studio is really the concept and the technology that you should be using to drive that. And Tracy put a bunch of different ones that are very valid to tackle as part of it. So check those out. And if you have additional questions with it, you can absolutely reach out to me or to our team with that.